Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Wolfson. I am a painter and a teacher. I've been painting for close to 50 years, exhibiting nationally and internationally, and teaching for almost 30 years, reaching hundreds of students. I wanted to put together another video as a follow-up. About a year ago, I posted a video establishing a reliable painting practice, and I wanted to do a follow-up video to that one, empowering a reliable painting practice. So in the first video, I'm talking about a series of decisions to make that will help painters move from the gathering stage, when you're first gathering your skills and figuring out how to draw and how to mix color and tone, becoming familiar with the world of painting, and how to start moving into the integration stage and figuring out your own personal way of painting. And in order to do that, you need your own reliable painting practice, place to work, time to work, setting that. And so I go through a number of decisions. And if you haven't watched that video, you might want to go ahead and take a look at that. And in this video, I want to build on that with the assumptions that, okay, you've got a space where you're working, and you've got set times where you're showing up and getting work done, but perhaps you're facing obstacles to getting into the work, or not quite finding traction, not quite finding the kind of energy that you're looking for, and how to do that. And so how to empower your painting practice. That's what I would like to talk about in this video. So I'll be going through some different aspects of that in a PowerPoint. So I'm going to do a screen share, and we'll start in on it. Okay, here we go. And from the beginning, and beginning, here we go. Hi. So, strengthening a reliable painting practice. Two primary decisions that hopefully we've already made that I'm covering in the first video. The first is a space. You've got some kind of studio space that you've dedicated. Perhaps it's a room in your home, or perhaps you're going outside of where you live and renting a studio space. And there's pros and cons to those. And but you've got a place that you're working, and you've got time that you've dedicated to getting work done. Perhaps you're a night owl or a morning person, and so figuring out according to your schedule and what's available when you're working. Okay, so all that starting to move. And these decisions, making a commitment to an ongoing painting practice, generally we start making these decisions after we've spent some time developing our foundational skills, and we've been learning how to draw. We're learning a sense of geometry and color mixing, how to take the three-dimensional world we're looking at, translate it onto a flat surface. And we're starting to get more familiar with the world of painting, what's happened in the past, what's happening now. It helps us learn about composition, helps us start to open up possibilities in our own imagination. So we're becoming familiar with the larger world of painting, and it's very helpful to become familiar with what's happened in the past, and since the Renaissance and before the Renaissance and the Middle Ages, and going all the way back to cave painting. Well, what's been happening with two-dimensional image making? What have people been doing? And what's happening today? What's happening all over the world, in China or Latin America or Africa? I mean, people are doing stuff all over the place, right? And so what is that? How does it look? And so many possibilities have opened since, well, the end of the 19th century. It really burst open with modernism and modernity, and all through the 20th century, and now we're a quarter of a century into the 21st century, right? So all kinds of stuff happening. And also what's happening locally. What's your scene? Where you live? What are folks up to? So we're starting to become familiar with what have people been doing with handmade, two-dimensional image making. So here we're going to talk about, and I'll open it up, how to make your painting practice necessary, how to have a sense that I've got to get into the studio. I need this. This is necessary. So the first thing is you got to let yourself play. You got to give yourself room to just fool around and do stuff. And then start setting yourself assignments or projects. And I go over that quite a bit in the first video, how to think about setting up a project, what are the different aspects to mull over, and try the opposite, set yourself something to do that just seems totally like, how would I do that? Just to give yourself another experience, open up the playing field of your way of working. So as you work, start to locate in the work where you show up. That's key, showing up. Notice when are the times when you're working that you burn brightly, you feel energized, you feel awake, engaged, and look back over the work that you've done, say over the last year or so, and notice, looking at the work, oh wow, that one really seems to have a lot of energy, a lot of power, those maybe not so much, but something's going on in that one, right? And these may be the same. It might be the same as when you were really up and engaged, and it may not, right? There may be overlap, and there may not be. It might come and go, and so it's something to start to become familiar with. Showing up is key to power and presence being in the work. What is this showing up? How do I get it to happen? So the first thing to get a handle on when we want to show up is we need to accept and wield where we're at when we're in the studio. What's going on with me? And just notice it, honor it, make room for it, and start to wield, oh, this is where I'm at. It's not where I thought I'm supposed to be when I get into the studio. It just happens to be what it is. And we need to make room for it, accept it, and then wield it in the work. So I gotta move this. This is in the way. Can you get out of here? How do I move this? Go this way. No, go this way. Maybe. So notice and use the emotional energy that's up when it's time to work. Wherever we are internally, we can use it, whether that's anxious energy, or we're feeling frustration, or maybe self-judgment, or even shame, whether we're feeling desire, or desperation, or joy, or love, or maybe sadness or loss. All of these feelings are worthwhile and available energies, and we can wield them directly in the making and the marking as we start working. So I'm feeling that energy in my arms, in my hands, in my fingers as I mark. I'm using it. The energies of the emotions will gradually, or perhaps even abruptly, shift and change all on their own. So we're not trying to change the energy. That's not our job. We don't need to do any of that. Our job is just to use the energy, make room for it, wield it, mark with it, eat the energy, and they metabolize all on their own. So meanwhile, our job is just to wield the energy as we're going. The emotional energy all on its own has been turning into an aesthetic object. We've launched, and we find ourselves in the middle of something happening, and that's what we're looking for. That's all good news. Now, this isn't self-expression as such, right? I'm not like, okay, I've got these feelings and I'm going to express myself and create an image that will express these feelings and sort of communicate these feelings. I mean, you can do that, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, where you actually are trying to express and communicate what you're feeling, fine. But this is different. This is just wielding the energy directly. I'm just marking in whatever interest I have, whether I'm working from observation, or maybe it's non-representational abstraction, or maybe it's a memory, whatever it happens to be, I'm locating the emotional energies that are up and putting them into my hands, in a sense, and wielding them in the marking and the making. So this is more like alchemy. There's a great book on alchemy and painting. My memory. What is painting? By, I'll think of it. He teaches at the Art Institute of Chicago. James, memory. Elkins. Great book. Beautiful book. What is painting? Or what painting? Yeah, what is painting? James Elkins. Okay. So this now, as we start getting more familiar with this process of taking where we're at and putting it into the work, we're starting to get a feeling of how a studio practice can become addictive, in the sense of you know, I need to get into the studio to work this energy. So we might have felt anxious energy or frustration like an obstacle. No, I can't get to work until, I get through this anxiety, or I can't get to work until, I calm down, or whatever it might be, or I'm inspired, or, right? We kind of have this sense of, no, I need to be inspired. I need to be in the mood. And it's not that. It's more like, oh, I'm going to use wherever I am. And so the going into the studio is a way of honoring where I am, living it, feeling it. So now, what might have been an obstacle, or we've been avoiding, or maybe an unmet desire, is now the raw material of our making. The raw material, like the other materials we use, paint, pencils, the charcoal, the paper, the canvas. This too, our emotional energies become another material that we're using in the making. So now our painting practice isn't simply what we do to make stuff, to make an image. It's what we do to feel and transform and live our lives. And this is how a painting practice becomes necessary and transformative. So far we've been looking at emotional energies, because very often the emotional energies, particularly what we might think of as negative emotions, tend to behave as obstacles, or we tend to relate to them as obstacles, and they get in the way of our painting practice. But there are all kinds of aspects to being a human being, and there are all kinds of energies, and we can use uh, all of them in the making. So what have we've experienced as obstacles and hindrances, I've wanted to represent here as gateways and catalysts. And now we'll take a look at a list of just different ways of working, different aspects of being a person. So there are emotional energies, and there are intuitive energies, and analytic energies. We often tend to think, well, I did anyway, when I was younger, that painting was about, and art in general was somehow about being spontaneous and emotional, and I didn't realize that to be analytic and intellectual, you know, and figuring stuff out that way. Like, oh, that's part of it too. Memories, bringing memories into the making. Perceptual experiences. I'm very involved in exploring my perceptions of things. Physical sensations, erotic sensations, spiritual sensations or experiences. So all of these different kinds of aspects can be brought into the making depending on what interests you. Personal narratives, things that you've experienced in your own life, cultural explorations, perhaps influences that are literary or film, cinematic, or musical influences. I find myself very influenced by music, and I bring it in. It's a collaborator for me, the kind of music I listen to. And I'm particularly drawn to improvisational music. Uh, and there's something about the way the improvisational music is structured and created, I find very useful for me in terms of my own work. This is me personally, I take a motif that I know, just like a particular melody, maybe a particular composition and then, like in jazz, you take a particular composition and then you play with it and you improvise and you come back to it, right? And it's the same for me, like with my interiors or flowers or something like that. Political expressions, right? Maybe aspects of, there's a particular issue or the environment or whatever it may be that you feel really strongly about. You bring that into the work. Wherever you're living, you bring it into the work. Linguistic play. People are interested in language. How does that work? Lots of interesting paintings, working with words and that sort of thing. So all of these different aspects, allowing yourself to really explore just what interests you, what concerns us, what intrigues or excites us, what frustrates us, what do we care about, what do we desire, where do we live, and how can we get that into the work? So we want to notice where where do I live? Where am I awake? What really gets me? And bring that into the work. Our job as we continue to travel the painting journey is to explore and discover our own necessary way and the what and the how of painting. That's our job. And that's our gift to ourselves and to the world. We have this inclination to make stuff with our hands and to make stuff that it's two-dimensional. Maybe it's got a three-dimensional experience of space or light or form that's going on as well, right? And these objects that we're making, they carry the possibility, the making of them, of going way beyond being an image. They carry the possibility of carrying our life force, our energy, transforming it for ourselves and sharing it with the world. So work at it, enjoy it, and it's an extraordinary journey. Just how things keep on moving and shifting and developing. So that's the PowerPoint presentation. You're getting to the studio. You are showing up regularly. You've gathered influences. You're starting to put things together for yourself. Now you want to locate what really interests you and explore that. Try to notice what's an authentic interest of yours as opposed to what do you think you're supposed to do as a painter. And as you start to explore what is going on out in the world of painting and what's been going on for, God, 100, 20, 30, 40 years now, people are exploring in all kinds of ways, and start giving yourself permission to explore your own journey and bring wherever you're at into the work. That's going to put a lot of power into the making. And it's that showing up and bringing your life force that's going to make the objects alive, give it presence and power. And you'll see okay, so what are other skills that I need in order to go further with this? Fun. But the key, you gotta get, the key is to honor where you're at and bring it into the making. So there you go. Thank you for listening. While there's another video I'd like to put out there. It has to do with some deeper inside things. Now, okay, I've got this, I've got an image developing, I'm showing up, I'm marking. Now what? So we'll talk about that. And if you have any thoughts or questions, please feel free to email me, contact me through the website, jordanwolfson.com. I'd love to hear from you. And hope you're all well and keep on painting. See you next time. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.